This is Junkyard Gold, and today I'm in Denver, the mile-high city at Colorado Auto Parts. Now, this is the late model section, but I'm here because this yard has a big stash of vintage muscle. And I also hear there might be a Ram Air Pontiac here. It's all happening right now on Junkyard Gold. I'm Steve Mignonti, hot rod historian, author, and lover of all things cars. I travel all across the country to uncover the forgotten and hidden gems from the automotive world. Where others see piles of rusted scrap metal, I see the cars for what they really are, junkyard gold. Colorado Auto Parts covers 40 acres. Now, the bread and butter of the business is the late model section, which invites people to come in and pick parts from newer cars to keep their cars running. But there are two additional yards, one up top, which has a lot of older stuff, and of course, one down in the back, which goes all the way back to the beginning with the real antiques, all the good stuff. The Corns family has run this business for over 50 years, and believe it or not, they've actually managed to hang on to some of the cars they grabbed during the very beginning.
My dad started it in the late 50s and moved here in the early 60s, and so I'm second generation. Gary came in and our two sons, and so we were just all kind of born to do this.
So 3 generations of Corns family running the yard.
Yep.
Now, what are the weirdest things you've found?
Do you really want to know?
Sure, play it.
We found a body. Yeah, we found someone's ashes.
Ashes.
A cremated body.
That was probably the weirdest.
And
Unique,
we find
yeah.
fingers and toes and stuff like that, but never a whole...
Guns,
Guns,
knives,
a lot of guns.
drugs.
Now, you guys also are passionate about cars. Do you do some building? Do you have any hot rods?
Yeah, we've got a few hot rods in our collection. A lot of them are built out of the yard. Our latest one is our 39 Plymouth radial truck that's been all over the circuit already. It's got a 7-cylinder Jacobs radial airplane engine in it. We just got back from SEMA with it. It was a big hit.
We kind of built it to show the world, that wrecking yards still exist.
Yeah.
And you can still take parts from one vehicle and put them on another. Our kind of motto is why buy new when used will do.
We're not commercial, we're family, right? We're car enthusiasts. We see something that has potential, even if it's wrecked into a ball, we'll try to save it. We're not just looking at it as a number to try to make a profit on it.
Amen.
Yeah.
Corns family know what they're doing. If I had this place, I'd be so in love with each car, I couldn't do a darn thing with it. I'd be paralyzed. But these guys know how to separate the good ones from the great ones. I love hanging out with these people. They're really down to earth, but I really am chomping at the bit to go scope this place out on my own. Okay, this is an Eldorado, but is it a 1970? Yep, when you see 8.2, you're looking at a 70. And the whole thing about the 1970 is the engine. This is the 500 in its highest state of tune. This has 10-to-1 compression and a factory-rated 400 horsepower. It's hard to imagine with a single exhaust pipe, this makes 400 horse, but that's what Cadillac said. But beyond that, people who build Cadillac engines seek out these heads. These are 1 year only, small chamber, but they don't have the smog passage for the exhaust heat crossover. So if you see these heads with a blank on the end, it's the 1 year only 950 casting. And ironically, that's about what they sell for at the swap meet, $1,000 for a set of these things. But again, here it is, 1 year only Cadillac 500 Eldorado motor, only in the junkyard. Well, we met with the Corns family, saw that cool 70 Eldorado and its cool 950 cylinder heads, but I'm still on the prowl. Big Pontiac Granville. I always look for the 455 emblem here. Don't see it, but hold on. Is this what it looks like? This is a 1970 Chrysler 300 Hearst. Now, here's the thing. They made 501 of these cars. Only 2 were convertibles. One of them went to Linda Vaughn. The other one got crashed. Is this a third undiscovered car? This should be a hardtop. This is a convertible. We got to dive in and add up the clues. In order to verify this car as being a true 300 Hearst, we have to see certain things. Now, first up, the fiberglass hood. These aren't being reproduced. That's here. the Spinnaker white paint with gold accents, which were specific to those 501 Chrysler 300 Hearsts. I see that too. Got the right wheels. We got to dig further. We got to see under the hood. Needs to have a 440 engine. Let's look. Before I open the hood, I got to point something out. On these Chrysler 300 Hearsts, they had hood locks here, which actually came from the Olds 442 parts bin. No joke. They're not here now, but that's where these things would have been from. And these hoods actually had a fiberglass skin with that telltale center bump in the back scoop, but the skin was actually bonded and riveted to a standard Chrysler 300 hood frame. Kind of weird, but that's how they did it. Okay, I see a 440. That's good news. Now, in order to be a true 300 Hearst, this needs to be the orange 440 TNT, the 375 dual exhaust big dog engine. This one here, well, I see a T. This is the 350 horsepower single exhaust 440 engine. It's not a good sign. This also should be orange instead of white, but again, it has the right hood, has the right paint, has the right wheels, has the right trunk, and this stuff is rare. We're gonna keep looking. Another distinctive feature only seen on those 501 Hearst 300s is this, a fiberglass trunk lid. And again, these are not being reproduced. On each corner of the fender, we also see the correct end caps, which duplicate that duct-tape look. And the funny thing is, when Hearst made these fiberglass trunks, they did not put a key barrel in these. These basically don't have a key. Instead, these utilized Chrysler's vacuum-operated power trunk release. And believe it or not, as a fail-safe, in case this didn't work, there's a button in the glove compartment. If that didn't work, these also got a pull cable, which goes into the car and has a T-handle which allows you to open the trunk in an emergency. So that is here. It's adding up. It looks real. It's a convertible. I look deeper in the trunk and I see a lot of green paint. This car was not originally Spinnaker white. We can see right there. See that? This car was born green. And beyond that, look at this. All right, okay, this is the original quarter panel end cap that was removed from this car, and then these were added. Now, while I want to believe we found the missing Hearst 300, I don't think we did. Again, the T code busts this car, as does this. This is the smoking gun, this green quarter panel cap. I think what we have here is a very clean 300 convertible that somebody took an original 300 Hearst coupe, parted it out, took all the rare parts and put it onto this convertible. If this was a real one, oh man, these would be a six-figure car, no problem. But I think what we have here is a very well done clone. Almost fooled me, but it takes more than that. I gotta say, I'm disappointed. I wanted this car to be real. It would have been a Junkyard Gold exclusive. Gotta say, I mean, to find an actual 300 Hearst convertible in a junkyard like this here, it'd be world-shaking news. Now, I gotta say, this car, when it was new, was probably about a $6,200 car, restored back to 300 status, probably worth 15 to 20,000 bucks. Not a bad thing. I would take the fiberglass hood and trunk and all of the Hearst parts, and I'd sell them to somebody restoring an actual coupe. You probably get about 10, well, maybe 5,000 bucks for the Hearst parts. Not a bad thing. And it gets some regular 300 parts, bolt them onto this car, paint it green like it was, and move it on down the road. Speaking of that, I'm gonna head off and look for more gold. In the 1950s, American cars were getting bigger and bigger, and especially Buick. Now, they had a problem. As Buicks got over 2 tons, the brakes would fade and owners were complaining. Well, in 1958, Buick addressed the problem with aluminum drums. Now, these were massive 12-inch drums, and they only used them on the front. The funny thing, the 57 Corvette Sebring was the first car to actually use aluminum drum brakes, but they didn't make it into production. It was Buick that brought them to the market. Now, you might think to yourself, how does aluminum stop a car and not melt? Well, these have an integrally cast sintered iron lining, so when you hit the brakes, the shoes expand into this, not the parent aluminum. These were lighter, but also much larger than the brakes used on virtually all of other Detroit cars. Now, Buick used these brakes from 58 through 69 when they finally offered disc brakes on the front for 1970. But a lot of hot rodders love to use these brakes and adapt them to their 32s and all kinds of cars over the years. There used to be a saying, when better cars are built, Buick will build them. Well, when better brakes are built, Buick will have them. This is pretty cool. This is a 1950 Plymouth Business Coupe, and you know the Dodge Ram Chargers, the factory team of engineers who went racing, this was their first car. Not this one, but they started out with one of these and built it into the high and mighty One of the first, well, altered wheelbase tunnel ram cars. Kind of cool. This would be a great core for a clone. Oh, Mustangs, a whole herd of them. Let's check this out. All right, 1965 was the first year for the Mustang. Over 600,000 were made, but keep in mind the vast majority, about 502,000 were notchbacks. And then, of course, the convertible followed up in popularity with about 102,000. Well, guess what? The 2+2 fastback didn't even arrive until halfway through the 1965 model year, arriving in September of '64. Now, why do they call this the 2+2? Well, the roof on this we can see has a gentle slope to the greenhouse, and the rear seat is pinched to a place where only 2 people can sit in the back. So, unlike the coupe or the convertible, which can sit 3 across, this actually has a smaller back seat. So with the 2 bucket seats, it's a 2+2. And beyond that, the term 2+2 was being used by Ferrari in the late 50s, early 60s. It was a kind of a sexy term, and Pontiac even used it before Ford did. So the 2+2 was a sexy bit of nomenclature. Now we can learn which engine this car was built with by going to the VIN. It's stamped in here on the inner fender. I see the letter A, which tells us 289 4-barrel, 225 horsepower. But what really makes this one special is the factory 4-speed transmission. Most of these had 3-speed sticks or automatics. But again, of the 3 body styles offered in '65 on Mustang, the coupe, the convertible, and the fastback, only 77,000 of the 620,000 Mustangs built in '65 were fastbacks like this one here. Let's take a closer look. Inside the 2+2's fastback greenhouse, we see these things right here. You might wonder what they are. Well, these basically are the other side of the vent that you see on the B-pillar. You might wonder, does that thing really work? Yeah, it does. There's a little slider right here. You move it like that, and it actually allows air to vent out to the outside airflow from the cabin. Keep in mind that glass window right there, if you're sitting in the back seat, bakes down on your back, not so good. But again, the B-pillar vents on Mustangs absolutely are functional. Another thing that's cool about this 2+2, it is, like I say, it's a factory 4-speed. By looking at the door tag, under the transmission area, we want to see the number 5 stamped in. I peeked, it is there. So this is a factory 4-speed A code 289. Now this is a 2+2. Again, it's one of 77,000 made in '65. First year for the Mustang. It's a big deal, but it's pretty rusty. Now the good news is there are companies that make brand new Mustang shells. They're just like Ford made them. They're clean, there's no rust. So that might be something you do. Combine these 2 things together and make it like new. Let's take a look under the hood. All right, well, a couple things here. As an A code, this would have the Autolite 4-barrel. Somebody along the way has put a 2-barrel on this one. But it is correct, those yellow valve covers are something you would have seen on a '65 engine. Keep in mind, Ford painted all of their V8s black in '65, but had a contrasting color on the valve covers. For 1966, all Mustang engines got painted blue. But again, this has been engine swapped, I think. But pretty cool piece, small block, 4-speed. What's to not like? And speaking of 1966, there was even a change in the size of the Mustang logo on the fender. They went from 4 3/8 to 4 3/4 between '65 and '66. The devil's in the details. Now this Mustang is pretty well hashed, but where there's a will, there's a way, and virtually anything you might need to restore this car is available. Now back when these cars were new, this 2+2 sold for about $2,900, but Ford research shows that the average Mustang buyer bought $400 worth of optional equipment and put them on their Mustang. So Ford really had their strategy worked out. Now, you've got about $30,000 worth of restoration ahead of you, but that said, a clean A-code 4-speed Mustang at auction, $45,000 to $50,000. So it could be done. It could come out ahead. The choice is yours. Now, it's funny, the first Mustang was a little sports car with a mid-engine platform, kind of like this. It's a Lotus Europa. This is a fiberglass body on a tube steel frame. Colin Chapman was the man behind Lotus, and he was the fellow who said, add lightness. So even though the Lotus Europa only had 125 horsepower, it weighed 1,300 pounds. So it had the power-to-weight ratio of a Roadrunner. Very cool car. Let's take a closer look. You know, it's funny, the Mustang and the Europa do actually have some things in common. You go back to 1962, and the very first use of the word Mustang was on a little 2-seat mid-engine sports car that Ford unveiled to the world. The Europa kind of follows that same platform. Let's take a look at the engine. What do we got? All right, yeah. This is the Lotus Big Valve. This came along for 1972, and basically it's a 1.6-liter Ford 4-cylinder engine with a Lotus-designed head. But again, for 1972, the Big Valve, what a cool name. came along with larger valves and ports, and this bumped power from 105 to 125, giving this about 120 mile an hour top speed. So again, Colin Chapman, the man behind these cars, was a genius. I love how it has 2 gas tanks, one here, one there. Pick your side and fill it up. Now about 9,200 Europas were built, and the end came in 1975 to make way for the Lotus Esprit, which of course James Bond made famous in all those movies. But man, I've seen it, a Lotus in the junkyard. Go figure. A lot of late model stuff, but I always make sure I check the perimeter of every yard because you never know what you might find. I think I see something old over here. Let's check this out. A GTO convertible in the junkyard. Unbelievable. Here it is. That's the emblem. That's the hood. That's the nose. A convertible in the boneyard. Looks like the real thing. But we have to know for sure. How do we do that? Well, the VIN tells us from 66 through 71, you want to see 242 in the first 3 spots. We got it right here. This is a true GTO. Now, there's talk of a Ram Air car here in the junkyard. Is this it? No. Okay, those are blocked off. If this was a Ram Air car, which came along late in 68, these would be opened up. There'd be some graphics here, but sometimes those burn off or fade. But it's not a GTO Ram Air car, but still, it's a real GTO. Let's look inside. Okay, not a 4-speed. What's weird about this car, it's not even a console shift floor car. This is a 3 on the column automatic with a bench seat up front. Most GTOs had buckets, but that was an extra cost option. So this car was probably bought new by somebody who had a family, or maybe a girlfriend wanted to keep her close by on the side. But this is a true GTO rag top. Let's look under the hood. Okay, well, here's what's left of the engine. But we go here. Yeah, right on. YS. That is the code for an automatic transmission, 350 horse base 400. Generally speaking, a WS would be a 4-speed car, so I'm going to bet that's the original 400 short block to this GTO. And there's the Turbo 400 automatic transmission. This is a very original, unmolested car. I do see inside of the car, the intake manifold for the quadrijet carburetor is inside. The heads are probably in a trunk, but hey, I mean, a very, very complete car. Very, very cool. Crazy. Look at this. This is the Endura rubber urethane nose. This is actually a bumper that doubles as a finish piece for the body. And this is standard on all GTOs in 68. And this does also have the hideaway headlamps, which were not standard. This is a $52 option, but here's the remains of the hideaway headlamps. Man, what a neat car. Now the GTO, of course, was America's first muscle car. You know, Jim Wangers, John DeLorean, those guys pretty much combined a mid-sized car with a full-sized engine, and for the first time gave it a high-performance identity and marketed it in that way. So this basically set the stage for the Roadrunner, for the GTS, all those other cars. But something kind of cool is MotorTrend made this their car of the year in 1968. MotorTrend car of the year. Now 1968 was a big year for the GTO. There was a total restyle on the body, kind of the Coke bottle style, and it was actually the second highest production year with about 87,000 cars built. But of those, roughly 9,980 were convertibles, like 1 in 9. So this is a very, very rare car. It's very complete, and it's a shock and a surprise to find it here in the boneyard. I love it. If this were my GTO, I would restore it right back to Concours factory condition. They didn't call it the Great One for nothing. I can't make it any better. I'd even respray it in Vertigo Green. It'd be perfect. Everything in the boneyard has a story. This frame right here actually is what used to be the Mopar pickup truck that the family took apart and turned into the airplane radial-powered custom truck. But this is the frame that no longer fits a radial airplane engine. But here it is sitting in the boneyard. What'll happen to it next? Who knows? A Cougar. I love Mercury Cougars. You know, a lot of folks think it's just a bloated Mustang. Not so. I love the clean lines on these. And don't make the mistake, This is not just a reskin Mustangs. These actually have a 3-inch longer wheelbase at 111 inches, and even the leaf springs in the back are 6 inches longer than Mustangs. So it's not just a Mustang with a bigger body. But there is one thing that was shared between Mustang and Cougar, and that is the reverse light. And of course, this does have the sequential tail lamps, which are iconic, specific to Cougars. And I see on the back the XR7 trunk lid emblem. That means this is the luxury version. Of the 117,000 Cougars built, about 33,000 were XR7s. But we have to now know what engine and transmission. Let's take a look inside. Oh, well, well, well. Okay, this emblem, 6.5 liter. That tells us this has the 390 big block. Now, the standard engine in an XR7 would have been a 302 small block. Not a bad engine, but not a great engine. This is part of the GT package, which included heavy-duty suspension, power disc brakes. The only way this gets better is if this was a GTE, which we'd see a 7-liter here and a 427 or a 428 under the hood. But that is rare and very uncommon to see a big block Cougar. Next question, what transmission? The C6 automatic or a 4-speed? We're gonna go inside. A 4-speed. This is a 4-speed Cougar. How cool is that? It's got the shifter in place with the reverse lockout, the chrome dressed pedals, and I don't think it's a swap out. The door tag tells us. We go to the transmission area. Right here we see the number 5. That's absolutely a factory installed top loader 4-speed. We also can learn what rear axle ratio this car had. We go to axle and we see a 5. Bummer. That means this has a 3-to-1 open differential. For an extra $42 or so, the original buyer of this car could have gone for the E-Code limited slip 3-to-1 axle. Oh well. Now the 9-inch rear axle, which came in the Cougar with the big block and the 4-speed, came in 2 flavors. The light duty with 28 splines and the 31 spline heavy duty. How do we know? Well, you don't have to go into the car. Just look at the center of the wheel. If you see a cup, that's the light duty, 28 spline, small bearing. But if you see the flat face with 2 drilled holes, that's the big dog, the 31 spliner. Now you know. Let's have a look at that 390. And there it is, very original, right down to the chrome air cleaner and valve covers, which were part of the 390 GT package. Now the 390 is a big block Ford. Don't confuse it with the 427 or the 428, which were also available in Cougars in 1968. But again, with plenty of torque, that 4-speed, this is absolutely a muscle car Cougar. Very few of these were built. One of the great things about the first generation Cougar was its hideaway headlamps. You can see here on both sides these awesome die-cast metal headlight covers. Now these were vacuum operated, and you can see here that you can actually rotate them by hand. And again, unlike Mustang, Mercury really spent extra money on the Cougar because it was an upmarket car. But again, this 4-speed 390 Cougar is just a neat, neat piece. Amazing to see it in the junkyard. Mercury advertising of the day touted these as being untamed elegance. That's what they call the Cougar. Now this one here, when new, would have listed for about $3,200 plus probably $1,000 worth of options here. Now the restoration on this car should be done back to factory stock because it's a factory 4-speed big block. Very, very few of these were built. You'd probably spend about $30,000 to $40,000 getting it back. However, you might get 60 or 70 for it at the right spot in time at the right auction. So it would be worth tackling this car. But right now, well, let it rust in peace. Some people say the original Colorado Gold Rush happened 150 years ago. I beg to differ. Here we found a 65 Mustang 2+2 4-speed, a cloned 70 Hurst 300 convertible, a 390 4-speed Cougar, and that awesome GTO convertible. You can still find gold in Colorado. You just have to know where to look. Until next time, hasta mañana.
Suck in your gut and put your beards out. Oh, we gotta have like a family rub.